Hi, and thanks for logging on to the Daily DVAR Halacha. And here's a brand new halacha for you, and it's for Thursday, the 6th day of July, which is the 12th day of Tamuz. Here we go. More laws about the 3 weeks now. If a non-Jew was hired by a Jewish homeowner to do construction work in his home, and the work began before the 9 days, the question is whether that work is allowed to continue during the 9 days. So technically speaking, because it began before, and the non-Jew is doing it of his own accord, he wants to do it because it's working in his work schedule. He's not doing it for you so much, but as it's convenient for him. So technically, he's allowed to continue, but we always say that it's best if you can try to push him off and say, hey, look, this is a special sad 9 days coming up. Would you mind like just stalling the work that you're doing on my house, go over to some other job meanwhile? And he says, but I'll lose money on it. You say, well, I'll even like pay you a little bit of money just to stop working on my home and go work somewhere else for the 9 days. If you can arrange that, that would be the best thing to try to do if possible. If the repairs that the workman is doing in your house during the 9 days are to prevent damage, like there's a leak and if it's left alone it's going to ruin some floors or whatever, then you are allowed to have the non-Jew do that work even during the 9 days, because that's not a pleasure thing, that's just to prevent damage. Even if there's no danger involved, like nothing's going to collapse on anybody, you still are allowed because you're not doing it for pleasure, you're basically doing it to prevent further damage. Okay, no planting. If you're one of those people that enjoys gardening and it's just your pleasure to plant flowers all over your house, so you're not supposed to do that during the 9 days. And of course, most famously, during the 9 days, we don't eat any meat and we don't drink any wine on the weekdays of the 9 days. Let's give the two reasons. The two reasons are, first of all, because there's simcha involved, there's pleasure and happiness involved in having meat and wine, so we refrain from that during the 9 days. Also, the meat and wine are two things that were commonly brought on the altar inside of the temple, and we are mourning the loss of the temple during this time, so it's kind of like awkward is not even the perfect word. It's just insensitive to be consuming meat and wine during this time when it's the time that we're mourning the destruction of the temple and the altar inside of it. So that's why we try not to eat meat and wine generally. There's exceptions we're going to learn about, but generally we try not to eat meat and wine during the 9 days. Thanks for logging on. Log on again tomorrow for more. Bye-bye.